Today we are plunging straight into Paul Moorcraft's Israel's Forever War, Israel, Palestine, and the Last Hopes for Peace.
Yeah, it's quite the read.
It really is. And it's not just another commentary. It's framed as this really rigorous historical look at a generational struggle.
That's right. An insightful, up-to-date examination, and it really relies on forensic research.
Forensic, yeah.
And the key thing, I think, before we even dig in, is the tone. It paints a, let's say, pessimistic but necessary picture with a strictly pragmatic approach. It really tries to avoid taking sides, fear or favor.
Impartial.
Exactly. And the central argument is that the events from October 7th, 2023, they weren't really a beginning.
More like a chapter.
The book calls it an interim report on the Forever War, an event that just immediately convulsed the whole region and well beyond.
Okay, so if this is an interim report on a decades-long war, we have to touch on the history Moorcraft lays out.
Definitely.
You've got those immovable historical markers, Balfour in 1917, Suez in 56-57, the Six-Day War in 67, Camp David in 78.
The big ones.
Yeah. But the book really stresses that the October 7th attack, Operation Al-Aqsa Flood, was different, a shock that sort of redefined things. How did that surprise actually work?
It hit right at the soft underbelly of Israeli pride. For decades, Israeli deterrence was built on these two pillars everyone thought were untouchable.
Superior military, superior intelligence.
Exactly, that they'd always get the warning. And the fact that Hamas, a group the IDF thought they'd pretty much contained, could pull off something so sudden, so sweeping.
It just shattered that confidence.
Completely. A total failure of imagination, really.
And what's fascinating, kind of chilling, is the historical echo Moorcraft draws out.
The 1973 parallel.
Yes, that stark parallel between the intelligence failure then Yom Kippur and October 2023. How did that hubris, as the book called it, take root again?
It seems it was both cultural and structural. In 73 and again in 2023, you had this complacency, this hubris leading to disaster because the senior leadership just couldn't believe the enemy could organize something so big.
Underestimated them.
Massively. And the book gives this really specific and culturally telling detail about 2023. Apparently, senior officers, mostly men, refused to take seriously the daily reports from the junior female watchers.
The ones scanning the Gaza border.
Every day.
Every single day. They were seeing Hamas training exercises for exactly this kind of scenario.
Yeah.
But the reports, they were dismissed. Didn't fit the narrative of what Hamas was supposedly capable of.
Wow. That detail about the watchers.
Yeah.
It's pretty damning. It means the intel was there, but the arrogance.
Or the system's conceit, complacency, and stagnation, as Herzog described the mood after 73, it blocked it.
And the timing, too. The book argues that wasn't just random. Not at all. A key political driver for the attack was disrupting the Abraham Accords.
Right, the normalization deals.
Specifically, Saudi Arabia and Israel were apparently on the verge of a formal agreement. That would have been the capstone, really shifting the regional power balance.
And Hamas wanted to stop that.
Exactly. To stop a normalization process that was basically going around the Palestinian issue, they managed to force everyone's attention right back onto the core conflict.
Okay, that definitely puts the shock of October 7th in a clearer political light. But an attack like that needs years of planning, huge resources. So let's shift past the surprise. What was fueling Hamas? Financially, ideologically?
Iran's role is known: weapons, money, advice. But the financial side is way more complex than just that. It's like a sophisticated global corporate setup. We hear about the Qatari cash, sure. Suitcases of money Mossad knew about and apparently allowed in for humanitarian aid.
Allowed in.
But the real depth is striking. There's a former Mossad official, Udi Levi, who handled economic warfare. He left in 2016. He claims he warned Netanyahu multiple times.
Warned him about what?
That Hamas could have been taken down using only financial tools.
Just financial tools. Why? What kind of assets did they have?
It was this multi-million-dollar investment fund managed mostly out of Turkey that acted as a holding company for maybe 40 active businesses across the Middle East.
Real businesses,
Yeah.
not just fronts.
Seems like real businesses.
Yeah.
Things like road construction, pharmaceuticals, even luxury real estate. In Saudi Arabia, Algeria, Sudan.
Wow. So a self-sustaining corporate income stream.
Pretty much, allowing them to operate outside those direct Iranian or Qatari transfers.
Okay, this complexity leads straight into what the book calls Netanyahu's very controversial divide and rule strategy.
Right.
If Israeli intelligence knew how embedded Hamas was financially, why let it happen? Was there a bigger political game? According to the sources Moorcraft cites, yes. Netanyahu reportedly told his Likud party colleagues something like, anyone who wants to thwart the establishment of a Palestinian state has to support bolstering Hamas to prevent a state.
The idea politically was to isolate Gaza under Hamas rule from the Fatah-led Palestinian Authority in the West Bank, create division.
So Israel could say there's no unified partner for peace, for a two-state solution.
That seems to be the logic presented. Keep them divided.
A strategy that obviously blew up spectacularly on October 7th.
Massively.
The section on leadership is also key. Yahya Sinwar, Hamas's political head.
Yeah.
His personal story is just, it captures the tangled nature of it all.
It really does. Sinwar is incredibly complex. Spent 22 years in Israeli jails.
Released in the Gilad Shalit swap in 2011.
But the most striking thing, he got critical medical treatment from his jailers. Israeli doctors removed a brain tumor while he was locked up.
So the man nicknamed the Butcher of Khan Yunis's was saved by Israeli medicine.
Only to become the mastermind of the biggest attack on Israel in 50 years. It just underscores this inescapable, almost perverse interconnectedness.
It really does. Okay, let's pivot to how the conflict spread. Moorcraft really stresses that Hamas intended for October 7th to pull in other Iranian proxies.
The axis of resistance.
Yeah, broadening the fight beyond Gaza. Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, Yemen.
And the northern front with Hezbollah and Lebanon, that's really the most dangerous part.
Why specifically?
They're described as this novel hybrid, part sophisticated army, part invisible insurgency. And unlike Hamas, their arsenal is huge, estimated over 200,000 rockets.
Many precision-guided too, right?
Yes, and long range. Plus, their fighters are seriously battle-hardened from Syria. That's a big contrast, the book notes, with many IDF reservists whose main role had become more like policing during the occupation.
And the U.S. stepped in fast to stop that front fully igniting.
Immediately. The source says within 24 hours of October 7th, Israel had over 100 jets ready to hit Hezbollah hard.
But Biden told Netanyahu to hold off.
Explicitly told him to halt the aerial onslaught. That U.S. intervention probably prevented a catastrophic regional war right then and there.
But even without a full northern war, the conflict went global anyway, didn't it? Through the Houthis in Yemen.
Absolutely. The Houthi naval war in the Red Sea?
And the economic fallout from that.
Yeah.
Attacking commercial ships.
Yeah.
It's huge. Why should, someone listening care about ships being rerouted around Africa?
Because it hits the global wallet instantly. Over 100 container ships forced onto that long route around the Cape of Good Hope adds 3 weeks to journeys.
And the costs.
For Israeli shipping, insurance costs jumped 250%, according to the source. Massive. And it creates these devastating ripples. Egypt, already in debt, saw Suez Canal revenue plummet by 42%.
Wow, 42%.
Yeah. And Israel's own port in Eilat, layoffs because ships just stopped coming. It really proves how this war, even if it seems contained, has immediate global economic consequences.
That economic hit really drives home Moorcraft's forever war idea. But the ultimate escalation the book covers was Iran's direct attack on Israel, April 13th, 2024.
Right, retaliation for Israel hitting their consulate annex in Damascus.
And that was huge, wasn't it? Because it crossed a major red line.
Absolutely seismic. Iran directly attacking Israel from Iranian soil. Over 350 missiles and drones launched.
But the defense was incredible.
So the sources confirm. Israel plus the U.S., UK, France, Jordan. Reportedly, even Saudi Arabia and the UAE helped out. They took down nearly 99% of everything fired.
Iron Dome, David's Sling, Arrow system.
The whole multi-layered defense worked. Biden called it a big win for the Israelis, defensively speaking.
But symbolically, the fact Iran did it.
Exactly. It created this huge fear of a wider war. Moorcraft points out that all the defense was great. The fact Iran dared to do it made everyone worry the next step could be attacks on Iran's nuclear sites.
A step towards a real regional mega-war.
Potentially, yeah.
Okay, let's move to the final section. The political deadlock. The search for hope. Despite that initial unity in Israel right after October 7th,
That didn't last long.
Moorcraft highlights intense internal turmoil, especially over the lack of a clear strategy.
Netanyahu came under enormous pressure, not just for the security failure before the attack, but for having no real day-after plan for Gaza. What happens next?
And that led to resignations.
High-profile ones. Benny Gantz, the opposition leader who joined the emergency war cabinet, and Gadi Eisenkot, both respected former generals, they quit in early June 2024.
Why? What was their reason?
They basically accused Netanyahu of putting political cynicism ahead of the nation's needs by refusing to define a strategy for post-Hamas Gaza governance. A strategic vacuum.
So With that vacuum, what hope is left for any kind of political settlement? Moorcraft's view is pretty bleak here.
Brutally stark, yeah. He assesses the two-state solution as, quote, outdated and impossible right now, but then he adds the paradox: everything else is more impossible.
So it's the least bad option, even if it looks impossible.
Feels that way. And this difficult reality is maybe forcing some new thinking globally. Look at Ireland, Norway, Spain recognizing Palestine in May 2024.
Does that change things on the ground?
Not immediately, no, but it definitely shifts the diplomatic calculations.
And the biggest hurdle, according to the book, it isn't really tactical, is it? It's ideological.
Yeah, absolutely. The book really emphasizes that Islamist fundamentalists versus Jewish fundamentalists are increasingly running the show on both sides.
Making compromise almost impossible.
Extremely difficult. The moderates just get pushed further and further to the margins.
This brings us to this critical idea, the hope equation, from Emi Ayalon, former head of Shin Bet.
Israel's internal security agency, yeah. He puts it very simply, very powerfully.
What does he say?
Ayalon argues, we Israelis will have security only when they, Palestinians, will have hope. That is the equation.
Hope as a prerequisite for security.
That's the core of the book's final warning, really. Deterrence, military might, intelligence. It all breaks down when people feel they have absolutely nothing left to lose. Restoring hope somehow is maybe the only way to break the cycle.
So tying this all together, Moorcraft basically concludes the war is expanding. He points to this emerging geopolitical alignment. Iran, North Korea, China, Russia.
Fueling fears of a wider hot war.
And shrinking that window for peace. The global economy is already stretched, dealing with Ukraine and this conflict.
The book really forces you to confront a tough call. How do you resolve a conflict with such deep mistrust, such totally opposing narratives about history?
It feels intractable.
It does, and there's that quote from Shimon Peres in the book. Peace is like a galloping horse. You have to mount it when it gallops by or it is lost forever.
A powerful image.
It really is. So the final question the book leaves us with, especially with so much global attention on Gaza right now, what mechanisms are there? Beyond the international courts, beyond the usual bilateral deals, what can realistically force the warring parties to jump on that galloping horse of peace before the window? Moorcraft describes as slam shut for good.
That's a challenge.
That's the crucial test, I think, for diplomacy in the coming months and years.